welcome to Bonus Action Heroes Read RPG Reddit stories. You can also listen to this in podcast format. Just search for Bonus Action Heroes wherever you get your podcasts. This week we discuss how to use foreshadowing in our storytelling. Am I the asshole for not warning my players about vampirism? This is from our Am I the Asshole? And user SamGuy909.
Okay.
So, I'm a DM for my friends group. We play semi-regularly and just started up my new homebrew campaign all about vampires. A quick rundown of events so far is during the first session they were attacked by a pair of female spawn vampires and they managed to kill them. It is later revealed that they were the brides of the big bad boss vampire and he isn't too pleased with them. The big boss vampire monologues to the party explaining he's upset he has to go and find replacements now and that is a hassle. After escaping and some adventures, they are hired to investigate a missing woman. Tracking down clues, they find she's been kidnapped by a vampire and taken to a cottage out by the river. They scope the place out and find it's being guarded by some vampire spawn. They fight them off and kill most of them. The one that escapes says to them her boss will kill them for this. One of the players goes inside and finds the girl as I described her, in a strange trance-like state, and he just picked her up and went to leave. I asked the group is there anything they want to do before leaving. They took the hint and just looked around the house, didn't find much. I asked once again, but they didn't want to, and as soon as they left, the woman hit the sun and burst into flames, turning into ash. The players were shocked/annoyed with themselves. One seemed to be annoyed at me. I feel like I gave plenty of clues as to what was happening and chances to check the woman before leaving, but they didn't. So, am I the asshole? I don't think they're an asshole.
I
It
don't
sounds like
think
they
so.
signposted, but again, we're getting the story from their point of view. And as we said, literally in just another story that's probably not in this edit, a lot of the time, what seems obvious to you isn't to someone else, and the GM, against their instincts, has to put up neon lights and signs pointing at a thing going, look at the thing, this is important.
Yes. Yeah. If you don't give something a really specific description, for example, in that situation, I would probably describe how this woman is pale. She's looking a little bit wobbly. She has 2 wounds on her neck.
She has 2 bite marks on it.
that then foreshadows that of what you instantly know what has happened to her. She's low on blood. She has been bitten by a vampire. Then if the players choose to still take them outside, then that's a different matter. It's hard to know, but you're right. What's obvious to you as the GM who knows everything, it's very hard to forget what you know. It's impossible almost. So you need to try and think, if I was a player, would this be obvious?
Most people are agreeing that they're not the asshole. This user's deleted their profile, but they say, I mean, that's part of D&D. You have to pick up on stuff on your own.
Yeah.
That's how players learn.
Yeah.
Another user points out, what were they supposed to do instead of taking her outside? And it is an interesting conundrum, the idea that you could only travel at night with this person to get them back to wherever they needed to be. But it's not an impossible thing to solve.
No, just put a heavy coat on and a hat. They'll probably be fine. I don't think they're an asshole, but I think there's always room to learn from this, and next time make it more obvious. Because again, I keep going back to Fright Night. It just sounds exactly like the scene where he pulls a woman out of the house and she goes up, right? Because he doesn't realise that she's too far gone. Maybe the GM had in their mind a cool scene of this happening. Maybe they didn't. But ultimately, the players feel like they've failed without any real means to avoid it. I mean, why did she instantly turn to ash? Surely she should have been taking damage. Maybe she started to burn up. Her skin starts to crisp. So you're like, oh, this is going horribly wrong. Give you an opportunity to run back inside. Then you have to solve the problem of she's turning into a vampire. Can we cure her? How do we get her back? What do we do about it? Can we trust her? There's so much opportunity for great play there that's just been lost because you just exploded her as soon as she hit the sun. So
not being able to go back on it now, I mean, there's now an opportunity for role-playing that disappointment. That's going to have such an impact on them going forward. They're gonna want to redeem themselves.
Mm,
That hero streak is really
yeah,
gonna come out of them, I would think. So it's just when these things happen, making the most of the situation and turning it into
yeah,
story.
yeah, exactly. If they're that kind of group, if they're the role playing kind of group, they
Yeah,
might just be
true,
the
true.
we like to solve the puzzle and do
We
the
like to be
fight.
heroes. If the heroes don't win, then we have failed and it is rubbish.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. So
yeah.
it's hard to know, but
Different play styles.
I think with things like that, it just needed perhaps to slow down a little bit, think it through. What when you set up that situation, what what are the options that those players might do? Will they stake the person because they're a vampire? Will they try and rescue them? If they try and rescue them and it's daytime, what will happen? I don't think they're an asshole, but I think perhaps they haven't thought it through and they've destroyed play instead of enabled it.
The next foreshadowing story I have, it's not really a story, it's more of just a rather vague question, but I know how much you like to think about foreshadowing. And it was very hard to Google foreshadowing Reddit D&D.
It's a hard one to do. What's the question? It is a hard one to do, and I do think about it a lot.
The title is Foreshadowing versus Out of Game Warnings Regarding Difficult Enemies from user Sneaky Stabby in our D&D Next.
Okay.
Haven't had too many encounters that are considered deadly, but there is likely to be one coming up for my players. I can foreshadow NPCs warning the PCs, talking about how dangerous/brutal the enemies are, but oftentimes the heroes just take that as more of a call to action than a listen, you need to pull out all the stops or you could die. Would it be too immersion breaking or seen as like I'm telling them they're basically committing suicide by saying something out of game? Listen, this is going to be tough. You're going to need to really think about how you engage and act tactically each fight, or there's a solid chance you could straight up die. Thoughts?
I have lots of thoughts on this, but didn't this
Tell
just happen?
me.
Didn't this just happen?
Just happen. Yeah, it's perfect for Uta. So
It did just happen. Well, you tell me. You tell me. So I don't. I feel
I can't tell you because you told me that there were deadly fights coming up,
I did, but that's the
and
point.
that this wasn't one of them, and then we died.
I told you that that wasn't one of them.
You said, yeah, the Banshees, you said, weren't what you were thinking of when you said there were deadly fights coming up, because what
It,
the odds were, it wasn't. It wasn't deadly. It
that
just
is
happened to
true.
be that we rolled really
You
badly,
all
all of us.
failed
The
your saving
odds
throw.
of it were,
Very small, but
yeah.
yeah. My what I think of foreshadowing is more about the storyline. There's probably lots of foreshadowing that I do where I know many of the events that could happen in the game. So a good example, and this, if you go back and watch, Jim was very baffled by it, is when you met the stone speaker
Speaker.
in Gracklstug. He said that he'd met some of you already. Now Jim was like, "Oh, he said he'd met me," but I did go back and check. He didn't say that because I knew if I said that, the chances are I'd say it to the person that had died. It's just the way it goes, isn't it? So he was very careful to say, "I've met some of you before, but I can't say too much because it might change what happens." Um, that's a foreshadowing for something that's quite a way off. And I've also had other foreshadowing, and it's all it is just thinking about what could happen and then dropping that into the game subtly so that later on you realize. But with regards to fighting, like I said to you, not all fights are going to be winnable moving forward. And I think, a great example is Zuktmoy, the Demon Lord. When I first started GMing again, 5, 6, 7 years ago, I don't even know how long ago it was, with my friends, we did chapter one of the Out of the Abyss, and they're all sort of level 2 or 3. I can't remember at the time. I think it was 3, and they're in Slubladoop, and a huge monstrous demon lord rises up, and the level 3 fighters like, yeah, I'm describing it, smashing up buildings, you know, bursting the brains of these Kuatoa, smashing buildings with its tentacles. I tried to really emphasize how destructive and dangerous this thing was, and yet he was still like, "Yeah, I'm going to go and have a go." So I don't know. Hopefully, I have got better at it since then.
I mean, that does feel pretty well
It does,
telegraphed.
but it
It's
can't have
difficult
been.
to.
It can't have been. Otherwise, the player would not have done that. And in the end, I ultimately said, I just said, this is not a
Well,
fight you can win. Is what I
no,
said to him as the GM. This is not a fight you can win, and you would know that.
I do generally approach monsters as a player as the DM 90%, 95% of the time.
Yeah.
Wouldn't have put this in front of me if I couldn't beat it. And if I couldn't, I'll know within the first couple of rounds.
Yes.
Thing is, also, I feel like this is the question of how well do you know your players. Like, I trust you are really intelligent players, so I have always designed combats to be deadly pretty much because I know that you will know the best. You'll think intelligently about how to defeat them. You'll think intelligently before approaching them, and
Yeah.
you will know when it is time to flee. Maybe this DM hasn't had an experience like that with their players before, so they just don't know how they'll react. And what we said before about some people just like playing heroes and villains, really heroic style games. So of course they're going to run in and be the hero and assume that they're going to win. Um, so I don't think there's an issue with them talking to them outside of game and saying that not
Mm.
reminding them that not all fights are necessarily winnable and that is a part of the role play of the character and the story.
Yeah, but it's difficult. I
It
don't know
is
how. What
difficult.
do you do to foreshadow? I mean, can you
I
think
don't
of any?
think about it. You
Okay.
talk about it all the time. I don't think about it. I think it's. I've always said this because I was an English literature student. You sit there going, "Oh look, how they put this. The writer put this in here, and then later on this happens, so they were foreshadowing that event." And I'm pretty sure 90% of the time the writer's going, "Oh, that's a happy accident." Um,
Sometimes I can't think
I
of
mean,
any good examples I've done, but I do it. But that's because I've run out of the abyss before. Ultimately,
that's. I think.
understanding what's coming, understanding what that looks like, and the end-to-end story, the storyline. Yeah, things change and things deviate, so you can drop hints and drop
Yeah,
foreshadowing
yeah.
in a way that when later on when they realize, the players will be like, oh, that guy said that, and
Oh, one of the
and
joys as a DM is seeing a player, Hazel, get out the red string. And yeah, I don't, like I said, I don't really plan for it. But yeah, if you know the overarching story, you know how this PC relates to that PC, etc. When
yeah,
you're GMing, I find there'll just be moments where you go, well, this is an excellent moment to just slip this comment in or put this in this room.
yeah,
If
yeah,
they notice it, they notice it, and if they don't, they don't. Um,
yeah.
but
So
it's nice if they then later go, "Oh, that was in there," or something
so
that makes them realise that there is an overarching plot linking everything. Well, this is an interesting comment from as a Denke. I tend to have my players roll some sort of skill check, an intelligence check straight up, or perhaps investigation to allow the characters to think about the situation and realize how bad it is, for example. Like, that is a good way to, well, essentially force the characters to think about what they're going into if they don't have take it upon themselves to do so and you're concerned.
yeah, and the other thing you can, I mean, which wouldn't necessarily work, but you can describe the character feeling this sinking feeling, their hairs on the back of their neck standing up on end.
Voltas Pistol says, use the language of cinema and video games, pull out all the stops for the description. And then there are some obviously really, really great descriptions here, people building on that. The ground shakes when it approaches. The weapon it carries glistens with a sickening aura of foul magic, and you feel your asshole involuntarily pucker.
I think at the end of the day, just don't be afraid to say does not look like a fight you could win, because we've got those instincts as people. Now, if there's a 20-foot demon walking down the high street in town, I'm not going to pull out a penknife and go and have a go at it. I think my survival instinct would say, this looks slightly beyond my ability. Don't think a bit of Aikido is going to help me with this. I think once you're above sort of level 3, it becomes possible to escape if a fight's going bad. And that in itself creates some great stories. It's just, yeah. Yeah, exactly. So as Tom says in chat, escaping from Zugtmoy felt like winning, and I think it really, did. It was one of the most exciting combats I think we've done in a long time because the danger level was right up there.
And we survived.
Yeah, you didn't kill her. I don't even think you took 10% of her hit points off, but you survived. And I know as well that at some point in the future, you are going to come back to that when you are strong enough. Maybe. Maybe.
Thanks for watching, and if you've enjoyed this, please don't forget to like and subscribe. You can also join the live chat on Twitch at Bonus Action Heroes. If you want to suggest Reddit stories to cover, please comment below or join our Discord linked in the description.